All right, let me know if we're live here, guys. Sorry for the technical issues. I think we are finally live now. Let me pull up the stream to start. All right, let me know if you guys can hear me. Dave is not here at the moment, but let me know if you guys can hear me, and we'll get ready for the Steelers Depot live stream. So can you guys hear me? So I need to mute myself. YouTube loves just doing new things and making changes to the live stream, and I'm trying to work it out on the fly, as you guys can tell. Okay, let me call Dave here because I didn't want to tie him up, and then we will officially start the live stream. So you may hear a little Skype call here in a second. All right, so I apologize for that, guys. All right, you guys can hear me. Hello, everybody. Dave says he can hear me. All right, Dave. Well, as you probably already know, I'm going to call you to get you on the line here. All right. Oh, what a disaster YouTube is. All right, so can you guys hear Dave? Dave, hello. How you doing? Thanks for being here. All right, peace and love. Technology these last 48 hours for me have not been my friend. But putting that aside, we have so much Steelers news to talk about. We've got a great chat here today, so thank you guys for being here. I do want to start things off right away with Blaise Johnson saying, "Hey, Alex, love your work. I listen to the podcast and your videos, born and raised here in Pittsburgh, and I must say you really have some of the best work, brother. I really appreciate that." Wes, Steeler fan, are here. A lot to talk about today. Let's just go right into the chat since I am delayed, which is my fault. I apologize. Mutated Gene. I can't hear you. Give me a quick test, Dave, if you could. Okay, well, it says we have your audio. Okay. I don't know. I don't know why they can't hear you. I don't know. That is, I have no idea why they can't hear you. If I turn this on, I don't think it's going to work.
Did you do the thing where you have to mute, the thing where you had to mute or whatnot?
I had that muted, and I turned it back on, and you can try again, Dave, if you could talk, please.
Testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 1.
Can you guys hear Dave? I'm guessing no, and I'm guessing this is all because of YouTube's infinite wisdom of trying to change their live stream. Just totally changed it and trying to get me to...
Okay, someone's saying they can hear me now. Got me. They got me. Dave's here. Hello. Hello, okay. Cleveland.
Does Dave sound okay? Does he said that the audio sounds good? Let us know if the audio is good. I thought I had to have you muted. I don't know.
Well, they say they can hear me now.
Okay. Well, if you guys can hear Dave well, then all right, more power to you. Then problem solved, even though I'm not quite sure how it was solved. So if Dave sounds good, we'll jump into the questions here. Again, apologize for all the delays. Hopefully just a one-time thing. Mutated Genome says, are there any benefits of the Steelers extending, restructuring any other contracts before the season kicks off versus just waiting until the offseason? If so, who would that be, Ben? Dave, I'll throw the question to you. There was at least a little teaser from Jerry Dulac saying that the Steelers might not be done with extensions yet, although trying to figure out who that is. There's a wide group of candidates for that.
So what was the exact question? I didn't see the question.
Are there benefits to the Steelers extending or restructuring any contracts before the season kicks off?
Well, they restructured David DeCastro. We knew that was coming. They needed some cap space to accommodate, other things. At the time, they had around $4 million in cap space, but all that was spoken for with the 52nd and 53rd player and low over the $2 million that it's going to cost for the practice squad. So they needed that just to give them some breathing room. All right. Now, since then, obviously, they extended the contract of Cameron Hayward, and it looks like that's freed up almost another $4 million. Now, the question is could they extend someone else right now? Technically, yes. The candidates. You want to pull that article I wrote today up, Alex, there on screen for them to see there. You got several of the soon-to-be unrestricted free agents there. Half of them you can rule out, just because they're not going to extend them. Now, the benefit I would say if you could get something done with Juju now, is it would avoid you having to use the tag and having to accommodate that high tag number. Instead, what you would do if you sign Juju now is you would make sure there would be a roster bonus in his deal next year that come before the start of the new league year, you convert that along with a big chunk of his base salary into a signing bonus, much like they're going to do now with Cameron Hayward next February and March, lower his cap number there. So, is there a benefit to doing it now? Well, if anybody that you extend now, you avoid having to possibly use the franchise tag on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that obviously would be the big deal there. Now, as far as true candidates there, I think I narrowed this down to today. And look, I'm not convinced it's going to happen, Alex. I got to be honest with you.
Sure.
But if it did, I think you're looking at a guy like Mike Hilton, maybe Juju, or maybe Alejandro Villanueva. I think those are the most realistic ones because, look, you're not going to extend Cam Sutton and pay him a lot of money, more than you're paying Mike Hilton, and then expect Mike to go out there with a smile on his face, Monday. So we obviously wrote about that Jerry Dulac tweet, and I think I laid out on the site. I urge everybody to read that article there. But I'll believe it when I see it, Alex.
Right. I think if anyone does get done, and I'm with you, I'm pessimistic of that actually happening. I think it's Mike Hilton has the best chance because he's been trying to angle for a deal for a while now. His value's at its highest. I really can't see Juju wanting to do a deal right now. Even if the team wanted to try to do that, there's no incentive for Juju knowing he's poised to have a big bounce back season and really recoup some of that value he probably lost in 2019. So I think Hilton probably number one, Filer number two, and from there, I mean, you could argue Villanueva or someone like that. I just don't see it happening, but we'll keep you posted. Got about 1 week from now, Steelers will be playing, so we'll find out then.
And Filer, the thing with Matt Filer, and a lot of people are going to bring up Matt Filer too. But here's the thing, are you going to sign him because are you going to sign him because you think he's your left guard, or because you think maybe he's going to be your right tackle, or just yes to possibly both of them? And what are you going to pay him? And then and if he is your left guard, what are you going to do with Kevin Dotson? Is he just going to be a backup for several more years?
Right.
Kind of thing there. It doesn't make sense for Filer to be the guy. It doesn't make sense for Juju to be the guy. I mean, Sutton to be the guy. It doesn't make sense for James Conner to be the guy there. So when we go through those, I think you're left with really about the three names that I rattled off: Villanueva, Mike Hilton, or Juju. And I really can't see Juju taking an under market value deal right now. But anything's possible. They could accommodate a first year cap hit now if they wanted to.
Yeah, on screen right now are all the unrestricted free agents after the season, all the potential candidates, although I think the ones we outline are the most likely to happen, and even then, still not far from guaranteed. Vegas TJG, Chase Claypool, a.k.a. CC, a.k.a. Mapletron, ends the year with 8 touchdowns, final round fantasy sleeper. I think that's a good gamble to take if you're a fantasy player. Adam Kordich says, do we know the cap implications for this year of the Hayward, Davis, and Colquitt deals yet? Dave, what are the cap implications for those?
They haven't hit the NFLPA yet, but I think it bears to reason that the Colquitt and the Sean Davis deals are what they're going to be minimum salary benefit deals. That means you pay them whatever their minimum would be, but you get the cap charge of a second-year player. All right. We don't know. I think the minimum signing bonus or maximum signing bonus that comes along with a minimum salary benefit deal is like 130-something thousand, right around in there. We don't know yet if they got those, but they're both evidently 1-year deals, and I would imagine that are minimum salary benefit deals. So those things aren't going to. They're really kind of. When you talk about Sean Davis, a swap for Curtis Riley, that might just end up washing out between the two there. When you talk about the difference between, let's assume Colquitt was a minimum salary benefit deal and there's no signing bonus involved. And if he's, he's obviously the guy replacing Barry, you're going to save about $1 million there. If indeed that's the case there. The Cameron Hayward deal should. We only know really the first year with that right now. We're still waiting on the on years 2 through 5 on that as far as the numbers. But the first year alone, I think is going to drop his number like $3.95 million in cap space. And obviously, as I already wrote about with the DeCastro restructure 3.85 in cap savings there. So, and then when you throw in like the 800,000 that they saved by cutting Dan McCullers and replacing him with Carlos Davis, they've trimmed a lot of money, in
Mm-hmm.
cap space the last couple of days here. So, uh, uh here's the thing to remember moving forward with this. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to sign someone to an expensive contract, because keep in mind that you can roll over unused cap space. Kevin Colbert's going to want about $6 to $7 million to play with this year in case he needs it, in case of emergency. Whatever excess above that, is excess. So we'll see. Look, we got 1 week to figure it out here, but unless they do another extension with somebody we just talked about, they're probably done.
Yeah, I think so too. A lot of comments here today. We'll try to get to all of them the best we can. Be sure to super chat if you want your question to be guaranteed to be answered by Dave and I. Robert Washington saying Jordan Berry gone. Wow, 1.8 million save. Wes Hickok saying good riddance, Berry. Yeah, not a lot of fans of Jordan Berry, Ryan Switzer, Daniel McCullers, all three gone on the roster before week 1. John
Just
Penning.
just just to be clear, it's not 1.8 million saved, because you got to
Mm-hmm.
replace them with a
Displacement.
salary. So you're looking at hopefully or around a million saved.
Yep, displacement is always important, factoring in cap savings. John Pennington asks, Alex, one good reason Trey and McCullers still make it to the practice squad. Can't figure this out. Help me understand. I mean, take it or leave it, but, you could keep 69 of your 80 guys on the roster this year with your 53-man roster and your 16-man practice squad. Most guys were going to circle back. McCullers, because of the veteran exception, you can put him on there because he does have some Sunday experience if you had to come up there was an injury. And Trey Edmonds still has some special teams value. I think he actually kind of struggled there last year, but if you had an injury, had to call somebody up. He's a guy that has played on multiple phases there. So that's the best I got for you, John. Let's scroll down here. Joe Coleman, over under on 4.5 sacks versus the Giants. The over is tempting there with that offensive line and Daniel Jones and the new system, new head coach. I might be tempted to go 5 sacks against the Giants a week from now.
I bet they're working on getting the ball out of that young man's hand pretty quick.
They better be. All right, let's see here. Wesley Cox says 9 sacks, 4 turnovers, 2 defensive touchdowns. Hey, I'd love that. Robert Washington, what position do the Steelers draft in the first round next year? I think we get this question more than anything else. I mean, it could go in a lot of different directions, especially with so many potential free agents. I would love a tight end in the first round. That may not be the number one priority right now, but tight end, potentially left tackle. Those kind of feel like maybe the closer to the top than the bottom in terms of team needs.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about a 5 tech or a 3 tech right now, do we? As far as defensive line goes, I mean, could you see another inside linebacker this soon? That might be, I don't know. That feels more like a little bit a middle of the round potential kind of thing. I'm not sure edge would be early. I'll go with Alex on this. I think tight end might be the leader in the clubhouse as we sit here today. I don't think it's going to be a safety. I don't think it's going to be a cornerback. I don't think it's going to be a quarterback. What about a center, Alex?
Well, does that mean Pouncey's still here, or does that just mean the heir to Pouncey?
It could be just the air,
Right.
but I don't think you can rule that out. Assuming they get. Here's what I think is going to happen with DeCastro. I think now that you've done restructured him, I think he's going to be an extension candidate next year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So locking him up, you obviously got Dotson, who they probably think a lot about right now. We'll see what happens to Wisniewski after this year, and all. We'll see what happens to Matt Filer and all that too. But tackle or tight end, I'm going to go with Alex on this one.
All right. Durrell Hauser has a $2 super chat. No message there, but thank you, Durrell. I apologize for probably not pronouncing that correctly, but we appreciate the super chat all the same. Let me find the next question here.
Where is everybody from in the chat? Type in where you're from. How about that today?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm sure we got Seagulls Nation everywhere. I mean, you guys know how it goes, so sure we'll get a lot of answers there. Mark Miller says, "Is the NFL season really starting in 3 days with no preseason? It's like blah. Yeah, it is a weird feeling, but it's coming quickly, and thank goodness for that." A lot of people here: Joel, Brenton, Paul Brown. This is me going through all the audio tests again. Thank you guys for the feedback there. Be sure to like the live stream as well. And as you guys see on screen, Duck Hodges, the 16th man of the Steelers practice squad. Mutated Gina, one reason you guys cite as a possible cause of Skipper not making the roster is the inability to contribute on special teams. What does that mean? Can he not block, shed blocks? Is he too slow? Yeah, he's not a great athlete. He's kind of a bigger, stockier type dude in that James Harrison-ish kind of mold. He just didn't do it. I don't know how good he was. He did it in college. He actually tore his ACL running down a kick or in his Toledo career, but just the guy that was not on that unit until the final preseason game last year, and obviously no preseason this year. It's harder to examine that stuff. And it just sounds like Skipper just did not have a good camp overall. So I think all those things kind of combined, factored in, leaves him without a roster spot. Dennis Sheridan, hi Alex and Dave. Hope you and yours are doing well. Have you had any word on the Castros' lower body hockey injury? No word. Hopefully, does Tomlin have a presser tomorrow? Is that work still the case for a Monday game?
It might be Wednesday this week, Alex. I don't think we have official word. I haven't seen yet, so I don't know.
Okay, not that Tomlin's going to be super forthcoming with that information, but the first injury report's going to come out Thursday, correct?
The first one will be out Thursday. Should be with the game being on Monday, so it should be Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the injury reports this week.
All right, so Dennis check back Thursday to at least see his level of practice participation and kind of gauge it from there.
If Tomlin's smart, he's not going to answer any questions about the tackle position. Come press conference, he's not going to answer any questions about the Castro to tip the hand there either. So we're probably not going to find out a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Paul Brown, thoughts on why Colin Cowherd predicted the Steelers to miss the playoffs? What avenue do you see the Steelers to miss the playoffs if health isn't an issue? If health isn't an issue, I mean, other than just struggling in those AFC North games where they're just super competitive and maybe you can't stop the run of the rushing attacks that Cleveland, Baltimore, Cincinnati bring, but it's hard to really envision a scenario where there isn't significant injury to one of your stars or multiple of your stars. And why Cowherd has Steelers missing the playoffs? I mean, he had the Ravens going 16-0, so I think it just Colin Cowherd, radio speak for you. Mark Leslie, is there anyone on the team you feel could cause a shock and have a real breakout season? Real breakout season, Dave. What do you think?
A real breakout season. Well, if something happens to James Conner and Benny Snell gets the opportunity right, early on and takes advantage of it, maybe that qualifies for it. I
think Snell is because the Steelers love their feature backs, and if Snell can become the guy and have a chance to carve out that role, I think he'll take advantage of the opportunity.
That's the first name that comes to my head. If Eric, I don't think Eric Ebron's going to put up the stats that everybody thinks he's going to, but it doesn't mean that he can't. I guess what would you consider a breakout for him, Alex? I
feel like Ebron's already had that breakout in 2018 with the Colts. I think if Isaiah Buggs could get a consistent play time, if Wormley's banged up, they don't like his reps or wherever he's at. I think Buggs could. I was impressed by Buggs in limited action last season. That's not as sexy as a Benny Snell potential in terms of ceiling, but I do like what Isaiah Buggs did last year.
Had I not answered it first, would you have gone Snell?
Yeah, Snell was in my head before I threw the question to you. So there you go. Wes Hickok, any chance Barry replaces Waitman on the practice squad? He's eligible, as everyone's basically eligible at this point, but I kind of doubt it. I think they're just moving on from Jordan Berry.
It sounds like that's going to be the case. If he can't, and you got the other kid that, who know, I think there's a little something I saw on Twitter that maybe he could be a kickoff specialist too. That Corliss Waitman has some experience doing that. I don't know. I don't think Barry would. It's not impossible, but I don't think he'd land back on the practice squad right now.
Right. We'll have an article on Dustin Colquitt and what he brings to the table in the morning on Steelers Depot. The infamous Tim, in our receiver room, who do you think has the highest ceiling and why? That's a really good question. Juju, Deontay, Claypool, throw in James Washington too. Could make a case for almost all of them. Probably not James Washington. In terms of just literal ceiling, best case scenario, I guess Claypool just because how freaky the dude is, but I'll go with the obvious answer and say Juju because I think this year's going to remind us how good he was 2 seasons ago.
But his ceiling would still be what it was 2 years ago, right?
Well, it could be a little higher than that because he was the number 2 to AB, and that limited his production and I guess status, so to speak.
How was the question framed, Alex?
I had to scroll past it. Let me try to pull it back up from the infamous Tim. In our receiver room, who do you think has the highest ceiling and why?
Okay, highest ceiling and why? I mean, look, we've talked about Deontay could be a guy that hits 1,000 yards. I I would bet against that, but it doesn't mean it obviously couldn't happen. Uh, I mean, Claypool, how many targets do we really think he's going to get this year?
Well, I think he's just saying long term is my interpretation of the
Oh,
question, at least.
long term and ceiling. I don't know. I'd probably go Deontay right now.
Over Claypool and Juju. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think again you make a case for all three of those guys and not be wrong about it. I mean that's a good problem to have in this receiver room. Russ, glad you're here. Let's see, go through some of these questions and commentaries. Darrell Hauser, what does having a roster bonus protect the team from versus just rolling the roster bonus in with a signing bonus? That is a question that sounds like it's for you, Dave.
A roster bonus. Now, look, a lot of times, they'll call these things too option bonuses if they're in like the second year. Now, why? For instance, why does Cameron Hayward have the what is it, 2.75? Was that what the number was this morning on that? I'm trying to, yeah, 2.750 was the roster bonus for Cameron Hayward. Why is it termed that, and instead of a signing bonus, especially in first year, when essentially this time of year that automatically gets rolled into the signing bonus, and that's what happened according to Joel Corey. I do not have a good answer for that. That is something for me to, next time I get on the horn with Joel Corey, to ask why. I guess it does give you a potential. To my understanding, that roster bonus still isn't due for a little bit, so I guess it gives you a little bit of an out maybe at some point. But if that thing's already being prorated in, that wouldn't make sense that way. And that, to my knowledge, is what's happening there, is his full signing bonus and that $2.75 million roster bonus is all being treated as a signing bonus, and thus stretched out over the 5 years of the deal. Why they separate it like that, I don't have an answer for.
Is it just giving the team some time and some protection in case something terrible happened, unexpected?
There might be some payout timing dates with that that separate it.
Because usually in installments, you don't usually get the lump sum, even in the signing bonus, correct?
Right, and it might be a deferred. We're not going to start paying on that until X date, kind of thing, until the payments start for that. I don't know. I don't really know why I just know it's part of the practice. I can't give you a definitive of why or what maybe some dates are attached to it, though. The thing is, a lot of times you won't see the first year roster bonuses in these things, but you will see them, what they call roster option bonuses, in like the second or third years. And those are usually tied to specific dates. Like Cameron Hayward's probably going to have one for like the third day of the new league year in March. All right. That he would get, once, assuming he's on the roster at that date and all. So they're kind of trigger option bonuses, if you will. But as far as why they do them in the first year, such as the case with this one, I don't know. I'm going to have to ask Joel Corey about that.
Yeah, good question to circle back to. Got a couple of super chats here. One from AB. Who will lead in receiving, touchdowns, yards, receptions? I might just go Juju across the board. Obviously, I don't think Claypool, even though he can be a red zone guy, is going to have the volume for touchdowns. James Washington, kind of a similar boat. It kind of comes down to Deontay or Juju, but I think, again, Juju's going to have that really strong bounce back year, going to soak up a lot of targets in the slot. I like his durability more than I like where Deontay's been at in his short career so far, so I'm going to go Juju in all three categories.
Yeah, I will as well. If he stays healthy, and I mean, he's obviously going to get a lot of targets. He's going to have a lot of catches, and if he can come anywhere close to those 2018 numbers, even 90 catches ought to be enough, I think, for him to lead the team in that category. And 90 times, times that out by what, 12.5 yards per reception. That's probably going to be about his receiving yardage. And can he get you? Yeah, I think the only question maybe is, can somebody rival him maybe for touchdown receptions?
Yeah, that would be the one category where you could argue an Ebron. It'd really be Ebron or Claypool, because, I mean, could you ever argue that Deontay's got a better bet for more touchdowns than Juju? You could, but I'm still going to go Juju if you make me choose. Also, a super chat from Russ Obenstein. Thank you so much. When will we get your season predictions? We'll do that for the podcast either on Friday or Monday, Dave?
Yeah, should we make them? I guess we should do it Friday before the or actually,
Well, we got Monday, the Monday game. I mean, we could wait
yeah,
till
the
Monday.
Monday. Yeah,
We'll figure it
we
out.
could we'll figure it out. Probably Monday.
Yeah, David O asks about impressions of the Steelers depth chart, and I always take this stuff with a grain of salt. And as promised, Mike Tomlin hit the "or" button a lot here with Zach Banner and a core for it right tackle. Even gave the "or" for Ebron and Vance McDonald. So still don't know who the right tackle is going to be. Some other little curiosities with Marcus Allen now being listed with the inside linebackers, also with an "or" next to UG3, but that's worth pointing out. And in terms of the kick returners, it is going to be an "or" between McFarland or Ray McLeod. I think it's going to go to McLeod, but can't discount McFarland either.
Right, and don't try to read too much into the order of the "or" because
right.
that's it sounds like I'm playing D&D again. Do you know what D&D is?
Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, you know what that is? The order of the "or."
It's alphabet. I'm pretty sure it's alphabetically done.
No, it's tenure, right?
Oh, is it tenure?
Yeah.
Well, McDonald's second behind Ebron, and he's been in the league longer, 8 years versus 7.
Okay. Allen's been in the league longer than Gilbert.
Right. But I mean, that just alphabetically, Banner ahead of Okorafor, Ebron ahead of McDonald, Allen ahead of Gilbert. That's the way I read it, at least.
Then maybe your theory is the plausible one.
And then, yeah, McFarland ahead of McLeod. That's my guess. But either way, it's the "or." We'll find out Monday. But take those things with a grain of salt.
I have a feeling some of those "ors" will be disappearing here after a week of time.
Yep, for sure. All right, let me go back through the chat here again. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are here till 8 o'clock answering all of your Steelers questions.
The order of the "or."
Sean McCavney, what's up, Dave and Alex? Hope you guys are doing well. Sean, good to hear from you. Have not heard from you in a while.
What's up, Sean?
Thank you for
Peace
being
and love. Thanks for coming.
Jesse George says, yo, just listened to the podcast from Sunday night. Thank you so much for listening, Jesse. I listened back to our reaction with a Cam Hayward, and it was pretty funny.
Did I sound like a little girl or what?
It was Chris. It sounded like Christmas for both of us running down the stairs. AB, Colquitt over Barry, good or bad move? I think it's a good move. It's not a significant improvement, but it is an improvement. I think in terms of Colquitt's consistency is the biggest thing that Jordan Berry just never quite was able to lock in.
Look, I mean, he shouldn't need much tutoring, you wouldn't think, as far as his directional punting skills should hopefully be there. And I just tweeted this out a little while ago. There's a good radio snippet back from April about him talking about the Chiefs moving on from him and how they've got that, had a chance to get that young punter or whatnot, and kind of snuck up, I think, on Colquitt a little bit there. And I just think probably because of his age, people just said, look, I mean, we've seen this team kind of do this before with a Mitch Berger, right?
Kind of won a Super Bowl that year with Mitch Berger.
Kind of go for an extremely old. Here's a fact for you, Alex and folks. Instantly, he has become the second oldest player on the Steelers roster behind Ben Roethlisberger. That's how long Colquitt has been around. And I'm old enough that I remember his dad punting for the Steelers. So
Craig.
How is that?
Well, it's not too often a 38-year-old is the second oldest on the roster. That just tells me how old Ben is compared to Colquitt.
They're just a couple of months apart, I think. I think one is March and the other is May.
Yeah, and Colquitt also a left-footed punter, which is a little bit harder for those guys to track. Actually creates some more maybe potential muffed opportunities. So Brad Wing was a left-footed punter too. So that is a small but definitely distinct advantage. Let's see. Chris W. Why didn't the Steelers go after Rosen? Is it only because Dobbs is cheaper? And don't you think Rosen has a bigger upside? Well, one, from the waiver standpoint, obviously Dobbs is a lot cheaper from taking on Rosen's contract versus Dobbs' contract. But two, I think the bigger reason was just that Dobbs knows the system. They know Dobbs. And that's kind of the quickest way to get a guy integrated in your system, especially in a season where you have no offseason, you have no preseason. You can't really evaluate those guys, and they don't have the in-game reps to kind of help accelerate the process coming to a new team. So they obviously really didn't want to, I'm sure, trade Josh Dobbs last year, but getting a fifth rounder for that was kind of a no-brainer, kind of too hard to pass up. So I think they just had a guy they liked, ended up trading for good value, and then a chance to get him back made a lot of sense, and just makes your quarterback room better because now Duck is the number 4, and I think that's a stronger room than Duck being the number 3 and Paxton Lynch being your number 4. ODG Dorkman, any Steelers worth a look in fantasy? Sure. I've been drafting several Steelers. Connor, if you draft Connor, get Benny Snell as a handcuff. Juju, Claypool's a good sleeper. Ebron. Dave, you've been snagging Eric Ebron in every fantasy draft I've seen you.
Yeah, especially in PPRs where tight ends get in one of these leagues, tight ends 1.5 points per reception versus other positions only give you one. So I think Gronkowski and Ebron this morning in one of those.
Nice. Robert Oda, Alex, your fellow Idaho Vandals fan. Go Vandals. Here, since Big Al will be cheap to sign older in 2 years max, and Watt going to get paid, where should we look for next year's picks to replace starters? I don't know about Villanueva being cheap. That guy's been criminally underpaid for a while now, and if he wants to keep playing, he's going to get paid like the left tackle he's been, the starting left tackle he's been for several years now. So I wouldn't assume that Villanueva is going to be cheap this time around. In terms of your question, where should we look for next year's picks to replace starters? In terms of the draft, it could be tight end, offensive line, depending on who they lose. Potentially, maybe cornerback again. Inside linebacker, as Dave mentioned earlier, but it is just kind of early to project that out. Let's see if they do any more extensions before the year begins, which seems unlikely, but there is that report out there we touched on earlier, and just how guys play and who this team tries to bring back. So we have plenty of time before thinking about next year's draft, Robert. Let's see, next question, and just going through all the places of where people have been. We got Johnstown, Philly, Maryland, Scotland. Mark from Scotland, thanks for being here. Evan from Indianapolis, Hard Punk Core from Jersey Shore, Robert's from Idaho, Steve from Fort Worth, Texas. So all over the country, all over the world, really. So that's always cool to see you guys and where you're at. AJC, did the Steelers ever had a punter older than Colquitt? I don't think. I'd have to look, but 38 years old is pretty old. Let's see. Mark Leslie, when it's all said and done, does TJ Watt have a better career than JJ? That's a really good question. I mean, JJ in his prime was literally unblockable, but the injuries have caught up to him so much. So if TJ can stay healthy, there's a chance, as crazy as that is, just because of all those injuries Watt's had to endure. That may give Watt the TJ the better chance to have the career than JJ. And thank you guys. We're over 100 people in the chat. I think that's a first for this live stream.
That's incredible. Good.
Awesome. You guys are here again. We are here every Monday. We'll see next Monday. Things may get shifted around, maybe be shortened a little bit just because of the Monday night game, but we'll keep you posted on that. Check the community tab on my channel. Let's see. Next question here is from Adam. I know it is impossible to know without seeing practice, but who would you guess would be active on the defensive line against the Giants with Wormley nagging injury and McCullers getting cut? There's potential that all six could be active because they have expanded active game day rosters this year. If someone had to be inactive, though, I'm leaning Carlos Davis, although, as you mentioned, we'll have to kind of check Wormley's injury, but it seems like he's going to be back enough for him to be ready for week one.
I think there's an outside chance, as we talked, I think, on the podcast. Maybe all seven of them dress because of the rule now.
Right.
So I think there's an outside chance on that. Obviously, if they only dress six defensive linemen, I think it's a good chance Carlos Davis would be the guy out.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Should Corliss Waitman be our punter next year? I mean, hopefully next year there'll be a camp, a preseason for them to really evaluate him in a meaningful environment. It's just so tough to evaluate a rookie in a situation like this. Camp only gets you so far without a rush and without just kind of that pressure that exists when you're inside a stadium. So tough to say, Evan. Probably not. Thoughts on signing Dobbs and releasing Duck? Yeah, again, not a huge step forward, but a step forward overall. Makes your room better. And again, you trade Dobbs for a fifth last year, and you get Dobbs back. So then you had the fifth, you had Dobbs. Kind of worked out well in the end for Kevin Colbert. Projected Watts deal from Robert. Dave, I wish I would have agreed with you a while back because I think that $30 million is probably going to happen for TJ Watt.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Well, by the way, what did you think about how close I came to the Hayward deal?
I mean, you nailed it. You were off by like, what, $500,000? Something like that? And you were under. Weren't you under? You didn't go over, so you priced this right.
No, actually, I think that, well, the one that I laid out on the site, I was a little high on.
Okay.
But as far as first year money, as far as cash flow, and I think I put down 16 million signing bonus. He got a 17.5 million signing bonus. I think I had something like 21 million first year take. And what did he get? Like 21.5 million first year take or something like that. So, Uncle Dave's getting a lot better at these, and when it comes to Watt, look, it's way too early to kind of lay out the parameters of that and signing bonus and all like that. But let's just say that another good, if TJ Watt stays healthy and has a season similar to what he had last season, it's going to be right there in the $30 million range.
Yeah, for sure. The infamous Tim has a similar topic and question. Out of TJ, Minka, and Devin Bush, who do you think will have the better career when it's all said and done? Great candidates there. I'm going TJ, though. I mean, that guy, the pace he's on, I know it's still early in his career, but he's got Canton written all over him the way he's playing right now. Dave, who would you pick out of TJ, Minka, Devin Bush? Who's going to have the best career?
Yeah, Watt.
What? Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
again, no bad options there, but TJ's just on that different level that I think could see him in the Hall of Fame someday. Duck Swagger, what are your thoughts on the Bengals? Their defense still seems really bad, but they seem to have put together an okay offense if Burrow can play well. Yeah, the line is a little bit better with Jonah Williams, their left tackle from 2019 draft, missed the entire season last year. You get Joe Mixon, the identity of their ground game. The defense is still pretty rough. I know they have some upgrades at linebacker. They signed Trey Waynes in free agency. He gets hurt, so they're still, I think, comfortably going to be in the basement of the AFC North, maybe competing with Cleveland. But I like Cleveland on paper a lot more than I like Cincinnati in 2020. Patrick Donovan, what days are the podcasts now that the season is here? Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Patrick, we are back to 3 days a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday are the podcasts, and always, of course, the Monday live stream as well. He says, think Tuitt was serious about $100 million. Would we even entertain that? I didn't even hear that comment from Tuitt, but he's still got a couple years left on his contract, and I don't think he was being literal about that, Patrick. Ross Obenstein, Dave, and Alex, you guys were the only media guys saying Cam deal would get done. I don't know if we were the only ones, but I know we've definitely been on that side where when it was easy to panic, and certainly Hayward and his agent, some of the media reports made it seem like, oh, will this get done? It's just rare for this team to lose their stars like that, and trying to picture Hayward in a different uniform just seemed like, it's like picturing Franco in Seattle or Webby in Kansas City just felt wrong.
I think when you looked at the person, the player, the recent history, the age, everything. Look, this would have gotten done a lot earlier in the offseason if not for the pandemic. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had to sit back, wait, and look, you don't want to rush into this yet either, too. You want to make sure you get, I think I said that on a podcast. You want to make sure you get through training camp with them healthy, too. Because you're talking about if a guy like that suffer a serious injury during training camp right after you sign him to a deal, oh Lord, you're already talking about possibly throwing away some bad money there. And then also you want to buy some time to get a little bit better idea, maybe what the cap might look like next season as well too. It just made sense from a practical standpoint all the way around to to get this done.
Yeah, it just made too much sense for that to happen. Let's see, Buzzsaw B9T5L. How do you see the backfield playing out as the season progresses? Do you see Snell Jr. being the bell cow come November, December, especially given Connor's health? If Connor goes down, unfortunately, we all know his injury history and his track record, then yeah, I think Snell has the opportunity to be the bell cow. Now, will he play on some third downs and some of those no huddle, 2-minute type drills? Probably not. That's where you're going to see Jalen Samuels have more of an increased role and factor. But yeah, I think that Snell has the traits to be a bell cow. Tomlin clearly likes Benny Snell. He was a feature back at Kentucky. That's why they drafted him. And if Connor were to go down, then I think Snell is clearly the next guy up. Now, trying to predict and project that stuff, Connor could miss some time, but it may be a game here, a game there, miss a half, who knows what could happen. So it's hard to really project it from that sense. But if Connor were to go down, then absolutely, I see Benny Snell as that clear number 2. He's the number 2 in the depth chart that was released today, and he has a chance to really soak up a lot of carries if Connor's not available. Let's see. Andresa, you guys wear a lot of hats in terms of breaking down the cap, positional analysis, and scouting, but in terms of contextualizing a player, whose job is that in the Steelers organization? Thanks. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by contextualizing a player. Obviously, your position coaches will grade you after every game. There's a pro personnel department that will scout you during training camp, that scouts around the league. But basically, when it comes to evaluating your own players, it is your positional coach, your coordinator, and of course, Mike Tomlin always has his say and his sway on the roster and the influence of how that's constructed as well. Let's see. Steelers fan 01. Just got here. Big fan. Keep up the great work. I don't know if you predicted anything on the Steelers record, but what's your prediction on what their record will be? Do you want to save that till Friday's show or
Yeah,
Monday show?
let's save it. Let's save
Yeah.
it.
So listen to either Friday, probably Monday show.
We got to have something to tease, right?
There you go, for sure. Let's see. Heartpunk Core says he's got a lot of Steelers in fantasy. I got Connor Snell, handcuff. Ben is the backup quarterback to Breeze Thomas combo. The defense, he run behind Kelsey, and a late round flyer on Claypool. Yeah, Steelers defense is certainly one of the best in fantasy this year. David O says,
that defense ought to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I expect some regression from a turnover standpoint, but they should still be no worse than a top 5 unit.
You know, too, the best thing about it, too, is hopefully they won't have to be on the field maybe as much, you know? I could stand for the regression. Look, the best defense to have is one that doesn't have to take the field, you know?
Amen to
that much. And, you know, we saw time and time again how much stress and look, you know, how much better can this defense be in fourth quarter of games if they have the lead and up by 2 possessions as well, too? You're going to make a defense even faster by being up, you know, a couple possessions late in the ball game, because then you just pin your ears back and get after them, and probably you don't have to be so cognizant of Mike Thomas saying, you guys got to get that football back, you know, like they did last year. So, man, I really want to put that adjusted net yards for passing attempt stat. I want everybody to hate that stat, but love it at the same time this year because of the Steelers leading the league in it.
Yeah, and I cannot stress enough the continuity of the secondary, entire secondary. Sands already Burns is returning. You can hit the ground running. Obviously, last year you got Steven Nelson, new to the team, Micah Fitzpatrick getting traded for midseason, so you're still trying to figure out how these guys fit, maybe simplify some things. Don't run this particular coverage or this scheme or this disguise. Now you can do that because all these guys are returning, and you bring Sean Davis back into the mix, who's, you know, can pick up your system in a day. So that continuity, I think, across the defense, especially in the secondary, is really important.
Look, they've got the band back together now. They're on a mission from God right now, and that goes over Alex's head because I'm sure he's never seen the Blues Brothers before.
No, but it sounds good. It's a good quote.
But look, as much turnover as we're expecting this team to have after this season and all, they're not going to be too much of an excuse if this team doesn't go deep into the playoffs.
Enjoy it. It'll be just a couple songs from this group, but hopefully it's some good music. David O seems to answer the question about oldest punter. He says Bobby Walden was 39 in his final season. Yeah, I was thinking about Walden or Pat Brady or someone like that, but there you go, Walden at 39. Andre said
David O's an old fart like I am.
He and I, we were definitely appreciative of the Steelers' history. Andresa, and do you think we should have re-signed Watts sooner and made him the highest paid defensive player at a lower rate before Garrett and Bosa instead of signing him next year at a much higher rate? In theory, that sounds good, but of course, you had to take care of guys now. And as I know you're going to say, Dave, the Steelers just don't do business that way. Aside from quarterbacks getting signed that early, just does not happen.
They just don't do business that way. You're right. You quoted me. Non-quarterbacks, they don't do guys 2 years out. And on top of it, you would increase. How are you going to afford that increase in the cap space this year now? I mean, you would literally have to do that right now. And I don't think the motor, look at the guys that just got deals done also. All right. Even if you got Watt done right now and made him the highest paid player in the NFL, you're still going to be close to the 30 million, right? And on top of that, who is going to get paid that kind of money between now and the time that Watt's deal does get done?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, after Garrett and Bosa are taken care of, who else is left?
Right. There's not nobody comes to mind that's going to sniff that amount right now a year out. I mean, we got Garrett done. They got Bosa done. Who else is primed to be the highest paid defensive player in the league?
Yeah, in terms of pass rusher, I'd have to look at the list. I don't know if anyone else is going to get paid next summer.
I mean, Bud Dupree's not going to get it.
No.
Unless Bud needs 25 sacks for that to happen. and
Right.
praise Jesus if he gets them. But the short answer to that is the Steelers don't do non-quarterbacks 2 years out. Additionally, there's no rush to, but they will have to do it a year from now. And on top of it, really the meters kind of stopped running. I think, if anything, the meter can probably only go in the wrong direction for TJ if he were to suffer some sort of injury. So I think when you add all those things up, I mean, how much would you really have saved this year? And you would have had to afford that increase, that huge increase in his cap number. See, he's already on the books right now for a $10 million cap number next year because they picked up his 5th-year option. So at least you're knowing what you're kind of playing with over there already, and that will obviously probably rise by a little bit there. But you got him on a much lower salary, much lower cap charge this year. So if you did that deal now, with the type of signing bonus that you have to give, you're talking about a huge increase in his 2020 cap hit also if you did that deal today.
Yeah, it's a tough call. It's a good question. It's a valid one. And I don't want to sit there and say, well, the Steelers always do it that way and just let that be the answer, because you could say, well, let's do it a different way, at least in our opinion. But there's pros and cons to it, as Dave, I think, laid out. Dave, a couple things for you. Vegas TJG says he's from New Ken, which is near me, but he's out there near you in Vegas in 77. So same with Antonio. He says he's living in fabulous Las Vegas. And Russ says, Dave, you're the best on the cap. And I agree.
Man, it doesn't come by. Thank you for that. But I was blessed to have several dysfunctions in my life that I've helped allowed me to kind of work well with numbers and keeping a copy of the CBA always on hand and just reading. I've always been enthralled with the cap for some reason, how it works and the history of it and everything goes along with it. And there's a couple of good books out there. I think the guy from Over the Cap's got one on Amazon that you can buy as well too. So it just takes time. And look, I learned something new about the CBA almost every day. But thank you. I absolutely love talking cap and contracts and those kind of things. I'm just enthralled with it.
The infamous Tim, if you were the Steelers GM for 24 hours, what moves would you make, if any? Sorry about all the questions. Don't apologize, Tim. Appreciate you being here. I think this roster is pretty good. I mean, they made some of the moves that I would have made with potentially Ryan Switzer and Daniel McCullers. This roster looks really good top to bottom, Dave.
We talked about how we, on our 53s, we would have kept, on our 53s, we kept Switzer and McCullers, but we make those projections off of what we think the Steelers will do. I'm pleased as punch they got rid of Switzer and McCullers. All right. If I was the GM, those were what I would have done. I just didn't think, as Alex and I think talked on the podcast, man, all these days are running together, Alex. Yes, last night, I guess, there. We didn't really have many reasons, to kind of replace those guys. So what would I have done different? I don't know. Is there one specific thing I would have done different this offseason? I don't know.
I mean, if you went back in time to the offseason, I'm sure there's a couple of guys that I would have looked at signing. I would have probably signed some better nose tackle depth. I would have potentially drafted one earlier than what they ended up doing. But in terms of the roster as it is today, which is how I took the question, not a whole lot, other than giving Danny Smith a 10-year extension.
No.
Well, I'm in charge.
No, not that.
But yeah, as it stands today, I think the roster looks really good. I think adding safety depth was important, and they did it.
Look, you got a lot of devils that you know.
Yep, and a lot of talent at the top. Tyrone Smith got spoiled by Alex attending camp, but you guys still slayed the competition. For an out-of-state fan, you guys are a blessing. Outstanding leadership, Dave. Best Steelers news out there. Thank you so much, Tyrone. Patrick Donovan says, I get in a lot of trouble by the wife for my time on Twitter. Sorry, guys. I always blame you two and the rest of the Depot crew. All right, that's fair enough, Patrick. Steeler Nation highlights, what are your official score predictions for Monday night? That will be done on Monday's podcast, although I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on Monday's prediction. Paul Brown asked, with the saturation of the running back free agent market next year, do you see the Steelers keeping James Conner? If not, is the 2021 starting running back currently on the team, or will he need to be drafted or acquired in free agency? I don't see them retaining Conner because of all the free agents, because of Dave's word, the fungibility of the running back position. To your second part of your question, my guess is it's going to be Snell, but I think they probably draft another mid-round back because that's kind of been their MO for several years now.
I think my next tattoo, I'm going to get the Grim Reaper holding a head or holding some sort of a crystal ball or something, or maybe a football, maybe a crystal football engraved with having the fungible engraved on the football. How's that?
That's an ask. It's an ask for the tattoo. That'd be a first for whoever does that tattoo.
All right.
But you don't think Connor's coming back? I think
No,
you've
sir.
made
I
that well
think I've made
established.
that clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the 2021 running back, do you think it's Snell? Do you think it's somebody else?
I think it's a good chance that that it's Snell and McFarland are your tag team, and whatever else maybe we'll see what they can get to go along with that.
Yeah, I think it'll be Snell, McFarland, and they draft like a third or fourth round type running back. Steeler fan 1933, would moving the live stream to Tuesday be an option? It is an option. We're still going to go with Monday for the moment. Tuesday, it works better logistically from one aspect, but also like that's when the coaches tape comes out for us, and that's why I start really getting into some other analysis type of work. So we'll let you know and try to be as consistent as possible.
Are we doing this next Monday night?
That's my goal. The Steelers play at 7:30 on next Monday, right?
It's gonna be tough for me to join you for that.
Right,
So.
right. So we'll have to figure it out. Stay tuned to the community tab on my channel. Be sure to subscribe as well to the channel so you guys get alerts on that stuff. Because that may be an issue. I don't know, because I know Dave, you got to do some active stuff and all that. So
yeah, a lot of pregame stuff and to get ready for the game and all. So it's gonna be tough for me for Monday nights. Game nights,
Yeah, we'll keep you posted though. AJC, is James Pierre a better tackler than Justin Lane? Just hard to say because we just didn't really get to. Obviously, we've never seen James Pierre in a Steelers uniform actually play before. But Lane is a tackler. There was 1-2. He wasn't great at it coming out. There were some improvements made last year. So if Pierre gets into a game this year, if he gets a helmet, maybe we have a better answer for you.
Well, that's one of the things that you look back now at and us not having you at camp and not having any preseason games, Alex. I don't know anything more about some of these young kids like James Pierre and Bandy, on the practice squad. Some of these guys and Carlos Davis and and the bad thing about it is a lot of these younger kids. You hope they don't have to play a whole heck of a lot. Some of these bottom of the depth chart guys there, so. We're not going to, or me at least, and really everybody, not going to learn a lot about some of these guys until you get to camp next year.
Right, so we'll see. We'll keep you posted the best we can. Kalen Clark, not sure if it's been asked yet, but could Sean Davis have a non-backup role on this defense later on in the season, i.e. replacing a player in dime or nickel packages? It's possible. I think it's more one injury away. As the dime defense looks today, Cam Sutton is your sixth dime defender. I don't see Davis having a real significant role in any one personnel grouping as of the moment, but if Sutton were to get hurt, or if someone else got hurt and that forced Sutton to move, then I think Sean Davis is probably next man up to work in some of those sub packages. Steeler Nation highlights your discussions involving contract scenarios next offseason, assuming it's the $175 million ceiling, I think he means floor, but point taken, or the $190 million or whatever it was originally supposed to be. I think I don't have a specific number in mind when I talk about that. I just assume that it's not going to be an increase in cap from this year. It's more likely to be a decrease, and you kind of have to work off that 175 since that is the floor, and anything else beyond that, better than that, is just gravy, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, it's hard to predict right now. At least in previous years, we had a percentage that we kind of knew that the cap would go up, kind of deal. Right now, I mean, you think we're in the dark? I'm sure a lot of the NFL franchises are in the dark along with us right now as well, too. But I think everything that you do right now better be predicated on the floor being 175 million. And then, if it's more than that, fantastic. So here's the good news is it looks like maybe after the first couple of weeks, and I careful with this. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but it looks like they're going to start letting some fans in these stadiums around the league, and also with the playoff money and selling these advertising, in these empty stadiums right now, I understand that's going reasonably well right now as well too. So keep your fingers crossed, Me personally, my thought on this all along has been the last thing that the NFL and the NFLPA wants to happen next year is the cap to go all the way down to that $175 million floor.
Mm-hmm.
Even, I think they'll work something out. My gut feeling is that profits and everything will allow the two sides to maybe work something out where at least the cap stays flat at $198.2 million. So write that down in your journals right now so you can either come back and gig me or whatever later, but that's been kind of my gut feeling on this all along, is that hopefully the worst case scenario is a flat cap of 198.2 million.
Mm-hmm. That would be ideal. Unfortunate that that's the ideal scenario, but anything's better than 175. Did I say already Burns earlier? I mentioned Sean Davis. Yeah, Burns tore his ACL in Chicago, so he's done for the year. Apologize if I misspoke there. And just about 8 o'clock here, so I think just a couple more comments or questions. Michael Piro says, "Be nice to see some packages for McFarland. Think you'll get any? Haven't seen the back on the Steelers with breakaway speed since Willie Parker. Yeah, I think." Niche is the word to associate with McFarland this year. He'll have a role. They'll have some ways to scheme him up, get him in space, and it is nice to have that infusion of speed that's quite different than the overall body and style of Connor, Snell, and Samuel. So excited about McFarland. It's just going to be in small doses.
Yeah, let's see if he dresses first, because he missed a little time there later on in camp. That's not good. Uh, and you want to make sure he's up to speed. And also, as we always talk with kind of these, I don't want to call him. I want to be careful to call him diminutive, because he's put together a lot different than the Chris Rainey's or the Dree Archers of previous times here. But when you get him, when and if you start getting into the games, some of the first things you need to do to him is just hand the football off to him.
Right.
Get defenses respecting the fact that you'll hand the ball off to them and then build from there. So, can they get him involved in the offense as the season goes along? Yes. I'm not expecting that to be a lot right out of the chute with him. Let's see if he dresses first, because if he dresses, that'll be a good sign, and then let's kind of go from there. So, yeah, look, I think they can use him in certain stuff, but once again, I would concentrate right out of the chute, if you're going to use them offensively, is handing the football off to them. That way defenses know that you're not afraid to do that. Then you can build off of that.
I agree. And when you build off of that, I would say some of that pre-snap motion, that infusion that Matt Canada, who of course helped coach McFarland at Maryland, will bring to get McFarland on the move pre-snap with some motion and some window dressing, get him in space, get him a step on somebody, a defense that doesn't adjust quickly or doesn't recognize it in time. That could be very dangerous. So excited to see how they use McFarland conventionally, because he is got to treat him like a running back, but also when they get creative with him too and utilize some of that explosiveness that he has. All right, last question here from Patrick Donovan. What's our current cap space situation look like, Dave? What's the number on the cap space as of today? And some of this is depending on Hayward's situation and getting the numbers on him finalized. But your best guess.
I don't have exact, but let's see here. 12.5 minus 2.5 for the practice squad. Add in another $1 million for the punter. 11 million under-ish, right around in there. But once again, we're not, I don't have all the data in for some of these contracts, so I'm guessing on a lot of this right now. But my raw numbers say 11 million under right now.
That's not bad. So they got a decent amount of cap space considering where they were at not too long ago.
Right. When you figure ahead of the DeCastro deal, you had roughly 4 million under. Add it. Let's go ahead and call that 4 million they got from DeCastro. So you're 8 under. And then let's call another 4 million for Hayward. That's 12, Dan 13, and then the practice squad, and then the punter. Yeah, so I would call it 11-ish, but don't hold me to that because I'm not playing with all the numbers right now. Right. But around 11 million under.
All right, there you go. All right, guys, it is 8:05. Thank you for being here so much. Really good group on hand. Still over 100 people in the chat, so Dave and I certainly appreciate that. Again, for next week, for Monday, it's a little TBA with the Monday night opener, Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Giants. So we'll keep you posted on that, but we'll definitely have some sort of stream in some capacity for you guys next week as well. Dave, as always, thank you for being here.
Thanks for everybody for joining us. Great numbers tonight. Tell your friends, and appreciate Alex putting this together as well too. And peace and love to everybody, and go Steelers.
And again, you guys can listen to the archive of this on my YouTube channel on SteelersDepot.com. It's still being archived on the podcast where you listen to our podcast, right, Dave? You still putting it back
Yes,
up? Okay.
yes.
All right, so you guys can listen to it basically a bunch of different ways, however you see fit. If you missed part of the live stream or you want to go back and listen to some of it again. So thank you guys so much for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.